So I'm going to address this firestorm that Elon Musk has created on Twitter that largely has led to that World War III trending hashtag that I talked about in my previous video, where he tweeted out a series of ideas on Ukraine and Russia to create peace, or what he assumes would create peace. Thankfully, 63% of the people in this poll say are disagreeing with him, and he's actually being ratioed 82,000 to 46,000. So clearly he's said something that doesn't make any sense. Now, full disclosure, I highly respect Elon Musk. I think he is a brilliant businessman. I think he's also a brilliant engineer, and he has the ability to see a future and has a vision of the future that we all likely will inevitably see. He's living there now. We're just catching up to it when it comes to engineering and technology. However, he tends to step on his dick when it comes to things like geopolitics or geostrategic policy and warfare. This is one of those situations. He's human. So I'll give him a little grace, but I'm gonna counter it, because you can give him some grace, but he's still influential and his followers love him, and a lot of people pick up on this as what they want as gospel, and we'll inevitably see what he says on probably Tucker Carlson or some shit like that. So he talks about redoing the elections of annexed regions under UN supervision, and then Russia leaves if that is the will of the people. That's a lot of words to easily type out on a computer and hit enter. What happens when inevitably there's a 100% chance that Russia loses that election? Back in January, something like 70% of the Donbass voted to stay, or was polled, and they voted to stay in Ukraine. And part of this poll, it was just an opinion poll, it wasn't official. 70% said they wanted to stay in Ukraine. Like 15 or so percent, or maybe 20% said they wanted to be an independent nation separate from Russia and Ukraine. And then like 10% said, we want to be a part of Russia. So what happens? Do you think Putin's just going to be like, oh shit, they voted. The will of the people has been heard. I guess I will leave now. You really think Putin's just going to be like, yeah, I'm going to roll out after all this fucking mess and go face his people and say, I fucked up. They voted against my wishes. Yeah, no, that's ridiculous. And even so, who's going to enforce that? Who's going to provide the security? You think NATO troops are going to show up and provide that security? You think that the UN and their troops, which are really NATO troops, you think they're going to show up and secure these elections? No, that's a dumb comment. That's a dumb thought process. I'm surprised that he even made that. Next, he talks about Crimea joining, or should formally be a part of Russia, as it has been since 1783. Be whatever their prior history was, the reality is the government of the Soviet Union, whether a mistake or on purpose or whatever, under Khrushchev, allowed Crimea to join Ukraine. Period. They were the legitimate government of Russia and Soviet Union. The legitimate government handed it over to Ukraine. There's no like takesies backsies here. That's not how that works. If it was like some kind of secession like the Civil War, that's one thing, but this was an agreement Russia made, and suddenly you're like, it was a mistake, shit, Russia has nukes and they're kind of scary right now, we should give it back. That's bullshit. That's nonsense. And then he talks about some things that Ukraine should remain neutral. Yeah, we've heard that before. How'd that fucking work out for them? That neutrality where they got invaded twice. Come on, man. You talk about history in one of your comments and then talk about Ukraine remaining neutral as if hitting the period button at the end of that sentence makes it fucking so because you're Elon Musk. Come on, man. That's ridiculous. Talks about water supplies to be assured to Crimea again. Okay, who's going to enforce that? You've said that, you say later on that this conflict could become nuclear and millions die. So you think that the US and NATO coming in to enforce water rights is not going to cause the same problem? That's just ridiculous. He talks about this it's highly likely to have an outcome where how many die before we see peace? As many as necessary. And I hate to say it that way, but that's the reality. Because fighting for the righteous cause is going to cause deaths for the righteous side. And that's the unfortunate reality of the world we live in. He said it's also worth noting that a possible, albeit unlikely, outcome from this conflict is nuclear war. Yeah, that's him basically an hour later realizing he stepped on his dick and is like, oh shit, I need to kind of escalate this in my comments so people understand that nukes are scary. Yeah, we get it. You're doing the exact same thing. You're literally taking a page out of Putin's playbook right now, saying Russia has nukes and could use them, so maybe we should be peaceful with them. They started this fight. They did. And it's like people like Elon Musk in these spaces like to ignore the fact that Russia is the cause. Later he tweets, Russia is doing a partial mobilization. They go full war mobilization if Crimea is at risk. Death on both sides will be devastating. Russia has 3 times the population of Ukraine, so victory for Ukraine is unlikely in total war. If you care about the people of Ukraine, seek peace. What a horseshit fucking statement. If you care about the people of Ukraine, seek peace. I prefer the people of Ukraine have freedom and the will to govern themselves away from an authoritarian fascist dictator. When and ever of history have we touted the guy that caved for peace? Winston Churchill says, we're not going to fight him anywhere. We're going to negotiate so people don't die and it's peaceful. Jesus Christ. That comment I lost a fuck ton of respect for Elon Musk on that one. Russia has 3 times the population. Again, not understanding warfare. Throwing massive amounts of people at a problem has always been a Russian endeavor, and it's never won them a goddamn thing. The only reason they won against the Germans was because they had the people equipped by the United States through the Lend-Lease program. Period. End of story. They would have been mowed down in droves by machine guns, just like they are in Ukraine. Having 3 times the population makes fuck all bit of difference. You think that if China invades the United States, they win just because they have more people? No, that's not how it works. Russia can't logistically support mobilizing their entire population. Saying they're go full mobilization, yeah, there's going to be a lot of death, but it's going to be far more Russians dead. It's like he counts people, and people matter when other things are equal, but they don't matter when you're giving them bolt-action rifles, no body armor, rotting boots, and no training against a fully prepared, trained, professional military supported by the most advanced equipment the world has to offer and the most in-depth intelligence. Ukraine is killing Russians at a rate of between 5 and 7 to 1. 3 times the population, Ukraine still wins that fight. It's their territory. And Elon Musk, which he pinned this tweet. He pinned this dumbfuck tweet. I'm surprised he did because it's pretty dumb. It's about to get ratioed too. Elon Musk doesn't know what he's fucking talking about. But you know what? I don't know what I'm talking about when it comes to robots and self-driving cars. The difference is I don't go into his space and step on my dick and influence a bunch of people into thinking that what he's saying is right. It's just not the way it is.